Hello and welcome to Beyond the Bot, where we bring you the latest in emerging technologies and how to put them to work in your business today. I'm Tony DeHart.
And I'm Stephen King, and we're here in the Blue Sky Lab.
So, the big news this week, Stephen, is in the world of AI. Sam Altman gave us a glimpse this week at his roadmap for GPT-5, the big, highly anticipated release of their latest AI model. Stephen, can you give us a little bit of insight into what's going on here?
Well, first of all, they're trying to communicate a little sooner, a little faster, and just kind of let some information out. Sam gave us some interesting insights as to what their next steps are. One of those is that we're going to see a change in the delivery of which model you get to choose. So he laid it out as if this is a good user experience and a good reason for people to make it easier on them, and that may be true. But it also does something else, is let them choose the model. And that's going to help with environmental concerns. It'll help with the expense of running these models so they can choose the most efficient model for the problem you gave them. But what's really interesting in this is kind of your philosophical viewpoint is how you're going to like this or not. Because I know the problem I'm trying to solve, and I know the context of that, and I might want to choose a specific model to solve that problem. But they're saying we in AI, with all of our experience, know what's the best model to solve your problem, and now we don't get to choose, and they're going to choose for us.
So it's almost a running joke at this point, right? OpenAI killed my startup. Every time we get one of these big announcements from the company, it seems like there's a flood of developers that are now looking for new work. And so, what does this mean for the development community that's building these generative AI applications, leveraging OpenAI's technology through an API?
Well, for all of these things, I think we see a place where if you have a basic startup that doesn't do a good job of doing added value, you see the big companies always come and take that over. We saw that with Apple and the iPad and the iPhones, and you had flashlight apps. Now flashlight's just part of the operating system. So this is a natural progression of technology. But I think what we're also going to see here is they've taken all the technology that they have, all the intelligence, they're putting it in their API. So every company is going to be able to use that if they choose to by using that API. And so it's going to give more opportunity for developers. More small businesses will be able to leverage that technology. But again, it might put out some of the smaller businesses that had started with just some basic add-on functionality.
Now, what about everyday users that are just going to ChatGPT, in a browser-based experience to put that technology to work in their everyday life?
Yeah. So for the general user, I think it's going to make things easier. You're not going to have to choose a model because you really don't know which model to choose anyway, right? And so from that perspective, I think it's pretty good, and it's going to make it easier for them. What we also saw was you're going to differentiate between the free model, the plus, and the pro. And between those, they're going to have access to the same models, but they're saying you're getting access to more intelligence. Now, we don't know what he means by that, but essentially you have a tiered level of intelligence. And so we'll have to see how that plays out. And is it worth the value add? Is it worth me to pay extra each month for that? Or is the free version going to be enough?
Now, I really want to zoom in on that for a second because that's a pretty monumental shift, right? Moving from this paradigm where the tiered levels were stratified based on usage and access, and now it's kind of stratified based on this term that we're still kind of understanding what that might mean, right? But what is intelligence in that context?
Well, he didn't give us a lot of detail, right? So I think it's going to be how fast we can get to a solution. So if you think about the use cases, a lot of times we have to build a prompt and we edit that prompt and we edit it and we refine it and get it better and better. If that might have taken us 3 to 5 prompts to get to that solution, maybe with a pro version, I could be able to do that in 1 to 2 prompts.
Wow, so maybe the return of single shot prompting, that's
right, exactly,
a huge
yeah.
development. Now, what about for businesses that are looking to put this technology to work to drive business value? You mentioned that this is in some ways simpler to implement. So does that more straightforward development pattern mean we might see more small businesses taking advantage of this technology?
I think the easier they make it, the more that people are going to start using it over and over again in lots of different ways, in ways we haven't thought about yet. So yes, we're going to see the individual users in their small businesses using it. We're going to see corporations bringing in more with their secured versions of it through the API. But ultimately, what I think is they're just trying to make it easier and faster. Now, Wall Street's going to be watching to say, is this as efficient as the new competitors? And we'll have to wait and see where that is. But we're going to see a nice kind of like they'll have a little bit of a honeymoon period there and try to figure out what is the next step and where is OpenAI going to go with all the competitors.
Speaking of competition, right? This, of course, all happening in light of what many folks are calling a burgeoning AI arms race, with OpenAI facing really stiff competition at the international level. So, how does this new roadmap and how does this announcement impact that dynamic?
Well, this is really interesting because coming after DeepSeek, everyone's looking to find out, with all the investment that OpenAI is getting, can they keep up? Can they make a more efficient model? Can they make this better, more efficient, easier to use? And so I think everyone's kind of looking to see, with all the competition, does it help? And is it worth my investment in such a large company? I think there's a lot of things that people are going to be looking at. From an investment perspective, they're going to see, is it consuming more energy? And then on the environmental side is how much energy is it consuming, and is there a way to do it more efficiently? And then on the user side is this any better? Am I getting faster? Or should I just look at some of these other alternatives? If they're putting all of this stuff available in the API, that means we can use it for whatever we want to use it for. And that's really helpful. So we can take that and put those into robotic applications. We can take that in, how do we understand the environment around us by using these types of queries and questions, right? And so we can leverage that in a lot of ways. And you'll see it with humanoid robots. You're going to see interaction that's going to be more human-like. And so I think you're going to see a lot more physical use cases rather than just the chatbot.
Now, more generally speaking, one of the big high points of this announcement for me is the move towards multimodal models, right? So integrating all of these different capabilities that OpenAI has built over the last several years, the voice kind of interaction piece, the video interaction piece, the photo interaction piece. Is this going to be a fundamental change in the way that we interact with AI chatbots, or are we likely to see continued text-based interactions?
I think we're seeing an incremental change here. I think we're going to see use cases where people are going to try to do new interactions with it, but I'm not seeing this as like we're turning a new corner and things are going to change significantly. The primary way people are going to interact with generative AI will be through a chatbot. Right? Now, other companies are going to leverage this and do it in different ways, but ultimately I think we're still going to see the chatbot as the number one interface.
Now, the last question I have for you, we've seen AI adoption rates and usage rates for this technology in some ways sort of grow very quickly and then stagnate a little bit. So is this a change that we think will expedite user adoption, or what are the roadblocks that are keeping folks from leveraging this technology?
Yeah. We see this with all technologies. All new technologies, you have a launch of it, then you have the hype come down, and then the question is where does it settle and does it continue to grow? If OpenAI is going to be successful, or any of these generative AIs, they have to deal with the privacy concerns. The number one reason that people are not engaging with this, if they choose to say no, it's just they don't understand it. They don't know. They don't have confidence in the companies. They don't have confidence in the technology. And so, if you're going to increase adoption, you've got to build that confidence. Does this one do more to that? Not necessarily. I think it makes it more effective. It does more things. It'll be a better model, but it doesn't get to those concerns that your people who are choosing not to do it. It's not going to get to those concerns, and I don't think it's going to change the difference for them.
So even if it's easier to implement, it doesn't necessarily take care of what the primary pain points that users have right now might be.
I would say primary pain points of the non-users, right? So it's helping some of the users. It's going to make it easier, faster. They're going to integrate it in new ways. But the people who are saying, I'm not going to use ChatGPT, or I'm not going to use generative AI, they're still not going to use it just because of this change.
So what best practices could folks follow to potentially address some of those concerns?
Well, I tell everyone, when you are using any of these tools, you've got to know what data you're giving up. And so you're sharing your information, you're sharing that privacy data. Make sure you're sharing data you're allowed to share, and it's something that you're okay if somebody else found. Okay, so don't ask it a question if it's some very proprietary thing. That being said, if you're working on more of the corporate environments that have protections under there, then you can do a little bit more. As an individual user using a standard, Plus or Pro account on ChatGPT, I'm going to ask it a lot of different questions that just don't have to do with my own personal information, right? I'm going to ask it the problems I'm trying to solve. I'm probably not going to put our, Blue Sky Robotics data in there because I want us to have a competitive advantage. I just don't know what they may do with it in the future. But I do trust it enough to say, give me good answers. Give me the things that I'm looking for, and I think what it's going to respond back is it's going to give me truthful answers. What I saw with DeepSeek was because of the way it was built and where it was built, there were all of these controls on it that I didn't feel confident that the answers it was going to give me was what I was wanting. I felt that it was filtered and censored, and there were things I needed to be careful of. And so I have a lot more faith in something like OpenAI and these larger companies than I do in one of these kind of up-and-coming startups that are coming out of China.
So that's really interesting. There's this question of, do you trust the model is really twofold, right? Do you trust the results that you're getting, and do you trust them to be a good custodian of the data that you're giving them to get those results?
Exactly. Trust has lots of different facets, right? And I want to trust that what I get back is good. I also want to trust that what I give is going to be protected.
Right. Well, certainly interesting to see this new model come out, and if it really does, as Sam Altman says, just work. Well, Stephen, a pleasure catching up with you. Looking forward to many more episodes of Beyond the Bot, where we will continue to bring you the latest in the world of emerging technologies and explore how you can put them to work in your business.
Thanks.